Yeah, hi Muskan. Firstly, I would like to welcome you to my channel and want to thank you for taking out time to share your experience. So, how are you?
I'm fine and thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, basically, it will really help all the students who are looking forward to searching for the internships. So, before we proceed ahead, let's you give a brief introduction about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Muskan and I'm pursuing BTech in computer engineering from Delhi Technological University, and I'm placed as software engineer in Microsoft, and my interests are machine learning, natural language processing, etc.
Nice. So, Muskan, I think there is some noise in your background. Maybe some echo as well.
Yeah, I think it's fine now.
Yeah, it's better now. Okay. So basically, I want to know like when did you started coding?
I had C language subject in second semester of my college, so I was introduced to programming then. And
Uh,
by the end of my first year, I started coding, and mainly in second year.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So, did you have like some C or Java in your school as well?
No, I didn't have in school. I got it in college only in second
Oh,
semester.
okay, nice, nice.
So
So,
I was completely new to programming when I entered college.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like many students.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, like as you mentioned, like in the second semester, you had a course for C. So,
yeah.
I want to know like how was it like how difficult was it to adopt to a new programming paradigm? So, because there was nothing like computers in computer programming in your 12th class, so it was totally new. So, like we have multiple students who don't do coding in school and then enter college and just C or Java. So, any advice for them? Like, how did you cope up with C or like how it all went.
Initially, it seemed really difficult because it was really new and I was not able to understand the syntax and everything programming. So, but yeah, you should not give up. You should just keep on practicing all the time. And yeah, there are plenty of resources available. There are courses on YouTube. So you can look up always there. I just followed some of the videos on net and then I just got the grip on the subject.
Yeah, okay, nice. So like was it like after second semester you started like coding and it like putting all the hard work, or you started most of the interview stuff in the third year? So when did you realize like you need to put your hard work and start preparing for the interviews?
Yeah, so they were always the seniors were always there to guide. So and we knew that the internship season in our college starts at the beginning of third year. So companies start visiting the campus.
Mhm.
So I realized in the beginning of the second year itself that this is the only year that I get to prepare for this. So
Correct.
I just began coding in second year and I just started practicing online. First, I made all the concepts clear. I studied all the data structures and algorithms, and then I
Mhm.
started practicing online. So
Okay.
second year was the time when I was majorly focusing on programming.
Okay, okay. So you would recommend everyone to start from the second year itself and not wait for the third year to start practicing.
Yeah, you should start as early as possible. Like if you can start in first year, then also it's good.
Yeah, that would be best, right? Right.
Yeah, that'll be fine. But second year is the best time to start.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So do you use any special technique to study for the interviews? Like some many people have their special technique. So what was your special technique studying for the interviews?
There was not exactly a special technique, but what I made sure was that I practice regularly. Like even if it's one or two question, I used to make sure that I do at least one or two questions in a day. Because I feel that for programming, it's like if you leave for a week, you'll forget everything you have done. Then it'll take a lot of time to cope up again with all the concepts that you learned. So yeah, there were classes, everything, assignments. So yeah, sometimes I did not get time to code, but yeah, still I made sure that I did at least one or two questions a day. And then when on weekends when I used to get time, then I used to give more time to coding.
Yeah. So basically, you mean the students need to be regular and they should not skip the coding days, right?
Yeah, you should be regular and yes, first start just pick the easy level, then proceed to the advanced levels. And
Okay.
I prefer that you should stick to one source first. Like I started with Geeks for Geeks. So made sure that I do all the questions of that site first, and then I move to some other platform. If you keep on switching from platforms, then it gets a bit confusing.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a question from Mahir in the online user. So basically, he wants to ask, like, did you try competitive programming?
Yeah, I did try computer programming. I used to practice on platforms like Hacker and CodeChef, etc.
Okay. And like, so I wanted to know, like, do you think that practicing on competitive programming is a must to clear the interviews?
It's not must, but it surely helps because it improves your problem solving skills and you learn how to implement basic data structures and questions. And for mostly interviews, there's always a online round before we get to the personal interviews, and the questions asked in that online round are similar to what they are in competitive programming. So I believe that you should do competitive programming.
Yeah, I mean that would help, but that's not must, right?
Yeah, it's not the only thing that you should do, but yeah, it'll surely help.
Okay. So we have one more question. So Pankaj wants to ask, like, which site did you prefer for interview, Lead Code or Geek for Geeks?
I practiced on Geeks for Geeks.
Okay, nice. And okay, so basically, let's move to the like our main focus today of the day. So how did you apply it at Microsoft?
Microsoft visited my college, so I applied on campus.
Okay, so it was your on campus,
Yeah,
and basically, like how many hours do you spend coding from the second year? Like if you
like
want to,
during weekdays there were classes and assignments, so I did not get much time to study. So I used to study like 3 hours a day, but on weekends I used to like give the whole day to programming mostly,
okay,
and mostly vacations were the prime time when I studied.
right. So we cannot miss the vacations time and just enjoying. We should also utilize that time to practice.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's move to your interview experience with Microsoft. So basically, how many rounds were there? How many interview rounds were there?
First, there was an online round in which three coding questions were asked, and we had to code the question, and 90 minutes were given for three questions.
Okay.
So, after that, they shortlisted around 100 students,
Hmm.
and then there was a pen and paper round, also known as the group fly round. So,
Okay.
in that, we were given around 10 short questions, like reasoning type questions, which focus mainly on the basic concepts of data structures. And there was a coding question, and we had to write the whole code for that question on the paper.
Okay.
So yeah, after that pen and paper round, out of those 100, around 30 students were shortlisted for personal interviews, and there were then three rounds of personal interviews, and each round was an elimination round. So after every round, some of the students were eliminated and some were moved forward to the next round. So yeah, there
Sure.
were three rounds for the interview, and then I got the internship.
Okay. So basically, we have a question from the online user. So basically, he says which topics are most asked for or emphasized in the coding rounds.
Mostly data structures and algorithms. Most of the companies focus on data structure and algorithms, but some companies also ask subjects like operating systems and DBMS.
Okay. And so I don't know if you would know or not. So basically, we have a question like, is there any difference in the level of questions asked in on-campus and off-campus interviews?
No, I think there's not much difference. The questions are same because I have heard from my friends who have applied offline, and their questions were of the same difficulty level.
Okay. Okay. So other than like data structures and algorithms, so which subjects do you recommend to study? So do you like DBMS, OS networking? So which all subjects do you recommend?
DBMS and operating systems are must to study, and you can also study computer networks and compiler design, but they are asked less in interviews. But the most focus is on data structures, algorithms, DBMS, and operating systems,
Okay.
and basic programming questions on object oriented programming.
Okay. Nice. So so were you also asked any design questions?
No, for internship they don't ask design questions, so I wasn't asked any.
Okay. Any advice to the juniors like how should they divide their time and study like basically between the data structures and other subjects? So because everyone is confused, like they should focus more on the data structures part or like these core subjects.
The major focus should be data structures and algorithm because they comprise the most of the interview time. So there will be hardly one or two questions on other subjects. So yeah, they should focus more on data structures. First, they should focus that their concepts are clear in data structures and algorithms, and then if time is left, they should focus on DBMS and operating systems as well.
Okay, so we have a question like from Jitin. So he wants to ask like, are dynamic programming and graph question asked in online coding now?
Yeah, graph and DP are asked in online round. Depends on company to companies, but yeah, it is asked. And these are one of the most important topics.
Okay. Okay. So would you like to share if you remember like some questions asked in your interviews, maybe for the reference, like so basically we can judge like what was the level of the questions based on the what all questions were asked to you if you remember them.
I don't remember the exact questions, but yeah, during my first round, there were questions on arrays and on stacks and queues.
Mhm.
Basic questions. They were not much difficult question, but yeah. And for the second round, there were questions on linked lists, trees, binary search, and for the third round, there were questions on dynamic programming and trees.
Okay, nice. So, any learning you want to share from your interviews, like from your experience, any something you learned, like you would have missed something, like not everyone's practice is perfect, so you would have missed something in your practice, and after like giving the interview, you would have got to know like you would have done this thing and other way, so it would have been much better. So, any learnings from your interview?
Yeah, your concept. I realized that the most important thing is that your concept should be clear. Just knowing the solution doesn't work because the
Right,
interviewer can twist the straight question anytime. So if your
right,
concepts are clear, then you will be able to answer the question. And you should be confident because when you're nervous, you make mistakes. Like I was a bit nervous in my first interview, so I made mistake in a basic question. But
right, right.
yeah, but you should just keep trying, and whatever you're thinking, you should discuss it with the interviewer so that he or she is on the same page that what you are thinking right now. And if you are stuck, then they'll surely help you.
Right,
So
right,
this
right.
is what I think, that you should be confident and you should just speak whatever you are thinking.
Right. So I would like to add here to all my viewers. So basically, so you should not just knowing the solution does not work. So because interviewer can easily guess, like, do you exactly really know the solution or you are just have come up the solution? So he can ask you cross questions. He can even extend the question. So you need to be very clear on the solution. You need to be firstly very clear on the data structures, like which data structure to use when and what are the time complexity of each operations in the data structure, and then you can basically solve the question. So this is the key before like moving to any competitive programming or before even moving to the questions, you should first study the data structures part like in depth and then move to the questions. Okay, so now let's so basically a short so how was your interview like intern experience as Microsoft? So how was your first day, or how would you describe the campus, your team, project roles? So something about that.
Yeah, look, it was a great learning experience, and I worked at Microsoft Hyderabad, and the campus is really huge there. And I was assigned the Microsoft Edge team, and my project was to develop a feature for the Edge browser. So yeah, the first day was a normal orientation and all, and from the second day I met my manager and they assigned me the project, and then I started working on the project. And yeah, I got a few initial weeks for the setup and to understand what the project was, and then I was asked to implement. And yeah, my progress was monitored on daily basis. I had to submit daily reports that what I had done in the day, what are the problems I faced. And it varies from teams to team that how they carry out your internship. But for my team, there were weekly syncs in which we had to present what we had done in the entire week to the entire Edge team, and they were all our co interns and mentors present there. So it was a great learning experience, definitely. But yeah, the programming that we do for developing software products is quite different from competitive programming. But yes, it uses the basic concepts of data structures and algorithms.
Okay, so we have a question like Abhinav wants to ask like what all tech stack you worked on while interning at Microsoft.
I majorly I worked on the Chromium code, and it is written in modern C++. So mostly I worked on C++, and this was the only thing.
Okay.
I worked on the core code. I didn't use any other extension or anything.
Okay. So like we have another question. So would you be like willing to tell us more about the project discussion round in the interview? So you would have done like major and minor project in your college.
Yeah.
So an interviewer would have
Yeah.
asked you if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, the start of the interview always starts with a discussion of your resume. So whatever projects you have mentioned on that resume, you need to be thorough with that. That whatever you did, you should be able to express that. So yeah, they asked me to explain my project, and after that they even asked cross questions about that what the data set I used and how were the results and everything, major details of the project they asked.
Okay. Okay, so one more thing, like, so what the interviewers helpful, like, because there are some many times like when you are not able to reach to the highly optimized solution, then interviewer gives you hints. So would you like to comment on those parts and maybe tell the students like how to approach a question in the interview so that they can use the interviewer's help as well and their own knowledge to solve any question.
Yeah, first of all, you should understand the question, and if you have any doubts on the question, you should ask the interviewer. Any corner cases that you can think of, any assumption that you are thinking that you can make, you should first ask the interviewer that whether these assumptions can be made or not. And then you should first start with the basic approach, whatever comes in your mind, the brute force approach. You should discuss that with the interviewer, and then you should start optimizing it. And while you should discuss everything with the interviewer, and he'll also uh, tag along and he'll tell you that where you are making mistake. And after the discussion, if they find that the approach is fine, they ask you to code it out. So you should be able to write it down on the paper neatly, and it should be easily readable and expressible. And yes, the interviews are usually helpful. Like in my case also, whenever I was stuck in any part, they helped me out. They gave me hints. So
Right.
yeah, they usually
So
help.
yeah, so I would like to add here. So basically, you should be always talking to the interviewer. You should be asking the questions. You should be sharing what thoughts you have in the mind, because that involves the interviewer. So if you are just solving the question yourself and writing the solution on the paper, that does not help. You need to involve the interviewer. So because when you start involving the interviewer, he takes interest in you, and basically, and then he starts helping you. He starts giving you hints if you are going in the wrong direction. So that helps a lot. This is my personal experience. You should always involve the interviewer, and you should think out loud. So it's always called, you should think out loud. You should not think inside your mind. You should, whatever you are thinking, you should think out loud and basically share with him that I am thinking in these directions. So if I do like this, so would I be able to do that? So you should always like involve the interviewer in your thinking.
Yeah,
So
if we don't share that, if we don't tell the interviewer that which part we are on right now, so he will not know that we are stuck here.
right.
So yeah, communication is the key in interviews.
Right. So we have a question from Kushak. So he asked, like, can I start in the last 6 months?
Yeah, like you can start any time, but yeah, that you if you start late, then you have to work hard, and you have to devote more time. So it's better if you start early so that you can do it like along with your regular curriculum of college.
Right, right. I agree. So we have another question from Jitin. So he asked, like, does communication skills matter during interview? So
Yes,
this is
they matter a lot.
so this is very popular interview question. So okay, so they matter.
Yeah, because if you're not able to express well your ideas, so they won't know that what you are trying to say. So communication is the key in interviews.
Okay, okay. So and another question is, so how did you learn DP and other algorithms? Any advice?
I've Yeah, like you can watch YouTube videos and you can see any online search. You can just learn the basic concepts from any tutorial, and then you can go on practicing easy questions and then move on to advanced questions. So the sites like Geeks for Geeks, Interview Bit, they have a range of questions for dynamic programming and graphs.
Okay, so I hope I didn't miss any question from the online. So if I missed any question, so maybe you can repost it because I'm not continuously monitoring the chat. So moving ahead, so I wanted to know, like, during internship, were you also required to work from like home after you reach home? So after from when you step out of office and reach home, so were you required to work at home also, or like you were able to do the work in office itself, and that was not required?
No, it was not required. I was able to do the work from the office. And especially in Microsoft, there are no timings that you have to work from 9 to 5 or anything. You can go to the office anytime, you can come home anytime. So, according to the requirement, you can devote time. So, yeah, I never worked from home.
Okay, and you mentioned like you were given PPO. So were there any interviews for that, or like your work justified your knowledge? So how you basically gained the PPO, replacement
Yeah,
order?
we were judged on the basis of the project, like that whether we completed on time or not, and how well we implemented it. So, like I said, that I was constantly monitored. Like there were weekly syncs to know what progress I had made, the points where I was stuck. So yeah, I was constantly judged for that, and I got the PPO on the basis of my project.
Okay. So did you apply for any like internship from off campus as well, or just you just relied on the campus?
I got like Microsoft was one of the first companies that visited the campus, so I didn't apply anywhere. I just settled with this one.
Okay, nice. So, any advice you want to give basically to all of the students? So basically, so that they can also work efficiently. Maybe like some tips, like you should interact with the managers very soon during internship, so that they also get a chance to get the PPO.
Yeah, like you should constantly keep in touch with your mentor and manager, and you should keep them posted that what have you done and what are you planning to do. And yeah, that you should first give your best to solve whatever errors you are facing, and then if you are not able to do, then you should contact. And you can contact anyone in the team. Like what I felt that people in companies are really helpful. Like you can approach anyone in the team. It's not necessary that you have to go to your own manager or mentor. So yeah, you should be interactive. You should like networking is the key. You should keep talking to people and you can share your ideas with them. So yeah, yes.
Okay, so we have like some people joining late, so they want to ask which college. So maybe if you can introduce yourself again, tell us like which college and something about you yourself again.
I'm pursuing BTech in computer science from Delhi Technological University. And yeah, my interests are machine learning, natural language processing, etc. And I'm currently placed at Microsoft.
Okay. So next question is, so basically he wants to ask like how Microsoft project is different from the college project. So you did a college project as well, and you did an internship as well. So he wants to ask
Yeah.
like how both of these were different.
The internship project was based on a real life product, like the Microsoft Edge browser that we currently use. So I had to make changes in that huge code base that exists for that browser. So yeah, the internship project is much more complex than the college project because the scope of this is much larger than your college project. So you have to understand the whole code base and then make changes in that. So yeah, this way it was different and yeah, from the college
And
project.
yeah, and you were given sufficient time to understand the code base, and there was no hurry for you to contribute.
No, the project was well planned. I got sufficient time to understand the code base and then implement it.
Okay, so so were there any difference in the tech stack you already know and you worked upon? So there would have been something new. So how did you manage to learn those things and use them to work in real life? Or
Yeah, the
or basically the tech stack was already known to you, like you were well versed with it.
Yeah, like I had command over C++ and the code base was also written in C++. But yes, it was the way the code was the way the browser is implemented is much different from the normal C++ codes that we do in college. So yeah,
Okay.
it was a bit difficult to understand their style of programming, even though the language was same. But yeah, it was a bit difficult to understand the style of programming. So yeah, it took me a few days to understand. I took help of my mentor to understand the parts that I was not able to understand. And yeah, then I got used to it and then I was able to easily implement my feature.
Okay. So one more question. So basically, Sheikh wants to know like which projects did you have during college? So what were the like ideas of your project? Which projects you worked on in the college?
I worked on social networks. I worked on analyzing the social networks, and I one of my projects was to study information diffusion on social networks. So I focused on the Twitter network, and we studied how the information spreads on such a network, and we proposed an epidemic model for that. And as we know that epidemics is similar to like information diffusion, so yeah, from we studied the existing epidemic models and then we proposed a new model. So this was one of my project that I did.
Okay. So like these days we are hearing like a lot of news about GSOC. So Mahir wants to know. So do you suggest trying GSOC?
Yeah, it's really a good opportunity because you get to contribute to like very good projects. So yeah, you should always try for GSOC. It's a good opportunity.
Okay. And how? So one more question. So how did you plan to learn from Geeks for Geeks?
Yeah, what I did was like I started from the first topic, like I started with arrays. I studied the basic concepts and then I just did all the questions that were available on that topic. So I studied topic wise instead of like a mixture of questions. So I started with arrays, then moved to linked lists, then trees like this.
Okay. So Kushagar wants to know, so if we make a lot of good projects and research internships, does it help?
Yeah, it does help because it makes your resume strong, and but still, for interviews you should be strong with data structures and algorithms along with the projects. So
Right.
yeah, always projects help because they projects are always a good learning experience. So yeah, you learn a lot from the project and they make your resume strong. So if you apply offline, then projects do matter.
Okay. So we have one more question. So basically, Microsoft hires around 600 plus interns every year. What's the PPO conversion at Microsoft, and what's the criteria of PPO conversion, as all might be able to implement the task in projects? Good question.
Uh, yeah, like most of the interns get PPO. Like I think there'll be around 80% conversion rate. But and the criteria is solely on the basis of the project, though it varies from team to team. Different managers and different teams have their own criteria for giving the PPO. So, but majorly it is based on the project and how well you implemented and how optimized your solution was and how well on time you did it. So these all are the things that matter.
Nice, nice. So okay. So do you plan to join the same team, or the team is not yet defined for your regular for your permanent?
Like till now, I think I'll be joining the same team, but I have not yet received the notification regarding that what team I have been allotted to.
Okay. So basically, do you have any advice for the students like who does not have a good sound knowledge of data structures and they are planning to start now? So basically, how should they start? How should they divide their time, and in some time, like in 6 months or a year, they should reach at a certain level where they can clear the interviews easily?
Yeah, it's never too late to start. Like you can start from today as well. And like you should first learn the basic concepts like what are the data structures, where they can be used, and they're mostly use cases. And then you can start from picking one data structure, start from the easy level questions and move on to medium and then advanced. And like that, you can cover each and every data structure. So yeah, you can easily cover them in 6 months or in a year.
Yeah, okay. And I would like to add here. So basically, doing things alone is very difficult. So if you form a group of like-minded people and then do things in group, that would help. So because when you have friends who motivate you, it always helps. So you should always try to do things in group. Make a group of like-minded people who are trying to prepare for the interviews, and in that way you can like easily go ahead, and that would help a lot. So that's my suggestion for it. So okay, so I have one last question for you. So basically, any advice for the juniors? So basically, like we have uh, multiple students from colleges like which who does not belong to tier 1 college. So do you have any advice for them, like how should they approach, like, and if you know about the off-campus process, like how can they apply for Microsoft off-campus, because Microsoft does not visits every college. So if you know about this.
Yeah, around in October and November, everywhere Microsoft has an off-campus drive. So it is open for all the colleges, so anyone can apply for that. And the procedure is much more the same. Like you have to first give the online test, and then the students selected from that are scheduled for some interviews. So Microsoft hires off campus every year. So yeah, there is equal opportunities to both on campus and off campus interns. And once you
Okay,
get the internship, then there's no difference between whether you were hired on campus or off campus.
right, right. So we have a question like, so he asked, so, uh, girls have more advantage than boys when cracking top companies. So your opinion. So does it matter like in gender? Does gender matters in the interviews?
No, like sometimes the company is specifically open for girls. So then definitely it matters. But when it's a journal interview, then only your skills matter. Like
Right.
if you're strong with your data structures and algorithms and all the concepts, then only you can get through the interviews.
Okay. So so we have one more question. So basically, after how many days after over of internship, we get to know about the PPO at Microsoft?
At Microsoft, the PPO information is given at the on the last day of your internship.
Okay, nice. So any advice for the fourth year?
Yeah, the only advice is that if you are preparing for interviews and for placements, so yeah, focus on data structures and all these concepts. And if you're done with your placement, then you can pick up some good projects, and that will be a great learning experience. You can gather other skills like machine learning and other concepts that will help you in real implementation of software products.
Okay. So since you already had PPO, so did you sit in the campus placement for the final year, or like you were not allowed?
No, I was not allowed. In our college, you can't apply for second placement.
Okay, nice. So one more question. So is it necessary to do project alone, or we can do it in groups?
No, it's not necessary, and it's always beneficial if you do it in groups because then you can discuss and it becomes a bit easy. So yeah, always it's your choice. You can do it alone and you can do it in groups.
Okay. So next question is, does that online test only consist of DS and algos?
Yeah, it consists of DS and algos. There are proper coding questions, and you have to write the entire code for that.
Okay. So how to clear online coding test? So any advice, any resource you would like to share?
Practice, practice, and practice. Practice is the only key. And
Right.
because the online rounds have a time limit, so you get like only half an hour per question. So if you have a good command over data structures and algorithms, then only you can code the entire approach in the limited time. So yeah, practice. You should be your concept should be clear, and yeah, you should always whenever you are practicing, you should always keep a time limit that yeah, I have to solve this question in 20 minutes. So yeah, this will help to clear the online rounds. While the sources like Geeks for Geeks, Interview Bit, Lead Code, these have a plenty of questions, and like sometimes the companies ask questions that are directly from these sites as well. So yeah, practice will help, and you can always do questions from these sites.
Yeah. So one more thing I want to ask is, so about this online coding test. So how difficult are these questions? So are they of the level of like Code Chef and etc., or like they are less than that? So if you can tell us about the difficulty level of those questions asked in the online test.
Like it varies from companies to companies, but for Microsoft, the questions were purely based on data structures like trees, linked lists, and they were like not much difficult, simple questions, very popular questions, you can say. So they were not much difficult. They were like easy to medium level.
So if you compare the questions asked in online test and in the actual face-to-face interview, which ones are the one like which are more difficult?
The questions asked in interviews like test your concepts the more.
Hmm.
Like sometimes the in online tests the questions can be based on logic or mathematics, etc. But in interviews, they mostly test your concepts, like how clear are those. And yeah, the difficulty level of interviews may increase because when you answer a question, they will twist the question and ask a more difficult one. So yeah,
So Muskan, your voice is breaking. I think you've lost the connection.
hello,
Are you there?
is it fine? Yeah,
So your video is not, your video is stable. Okay, maybe we can hear you, so that's okay. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
So
so yeah,
yeah, yeah. Please continue.
yeah. This is what I wanted to say, that in interviews, like, they test more of your concepts, and yeah. And for online tests, mostly the questions are focused on data sets and algorithms, and in interviews they can ask.
Okay, sorry guys. I think Muskan lost the connection, so we won't be able to answer any further questions. So uh, this was the first session in our series of online interviews. So basically, I'll be doing such sessions very frequently with different peoples from working in different companies like Amazon, Adobe, Uber, and all. So if you want to have such sessions again, so you can subscribe to the channel. And also, I'm starting a in system design series, so you can also follow that. So I think Muskan is trying to join, so I can try to add her. So Muskan, you're there.
Yeah, I can.
So you lost the connection. Is it fine now?
Yeah, it's fine now. I can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. So we have one more question. So does the code matters or approach to solve the problem in the interview?
Can you repeat the question?
So the question is, does the code matters or the approach to solve the problem in during the interview?
Approach, like, your approach should be correct. It should be optimized. It matters the most. And the way you code, it doesn't matter much. But yeah, whatever approach you are trying to explain your code, you should be express it well through your code. Because after explaining the approach, you have to write code it down, and the code must be perfect.
Right. So we have one more question. So Abhinav wants to ask, does computational geometry topics asked generally in interviews?
No, they are not asked generally in interviews. Like, I haven't heard of them, but yeah, they are not much important. But yeah, it's good if you can do them.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So I think Muskan, there is some connectivity issues. So maybe we can end the session here. So it was very well. It was very helpful for everyone, every viewer. So basically, I think I hope the students will take something from here, and they'll definitely try to start if they have not yet started the DS, and maybe if you are already practicing DS, you would try to improve. So stay tuned, and I'll be back with my next session. Till then, you can enjoy my DS Algos series, and also I will be posting my first video on system design series. Thank you.